case you don't watch the whole video, just real quick, if you guys get some of the LMR BLEM Coupe quarter windows, reinforce all of the mounting studs before you install them. And if you're wondering why I'm saying this, then watch the whole video. But I'm telling you guys right now, the rubber is softer. The way stuff is made in the aftermarket world isn't the same as OE. And if you're really wanting to make sure that you get a good seal of the glass against your quarter panel, then I strongly recommend that you do this so that you don't accidentally rip out the mounting studs out of the glass and while you're pulling stuff out and you're getting messy after the fact. So do yourself a favor and do it beforehand. Now keep watching this video so you can see exactly what happened here and how we're trying to finish up the 88 Cali Coupe. What's up guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. A little bit of a freestyle video here. I wasn't gonna pick up the camera because I wasn't planning on doing really any more footage on the Cali Coupe. I did say in my last video that I'd be restoring the trim, and it wasn't worth sharing, trim restoration with you guys because I've done a number of videos on it already. But then I picked up the quarter window replacements. Now, if you guys have seen the video that I did on those, they are the LMR BLEM Coupe quarter window replacements made by Daniel Carpenter, and I went through sort of like an unboxing / reveal of them. Just kind of gave my overall feedback on how I thought they would potentially look once installed. But now the time has come to actually install a set on a car. So I was doing some test fitting, and you know what? They fit pretty much perfect. I had to do maybe 15 to 20 minutes worth of trimming around the edges of the rubber, just to the way that they came out of the mold left, just kind of rough cuts, if you will. And I'll show you on the other glass so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So doing a bit of trimming, sanding, just getting everything nice and smooth, fits on the car perfect. The only thing, and I'm going to try and move the camera in a way that you guys can see this, is the way that the glass is probably from the tempering process. And what's happened is the glass looks a little wavy, like when you walk past, almost like some slightly bad body work on a black car. But I'm going to see if I can get the camera to show it to you guys. So I'm not going to know if you guys could actually see those waves or ripples until I can actually put this up on my screen when I'm doing the editing, but it's really not a horrible thing. You really got to be looking for it, kind of like my review when I went over these windows to begin with. I did it from a mint, you want 100% original, perfect restoration point of view. So the windows are still a solid 8, 9 out of 10. They're probably a 10 out of 10 for most people out there. But for a car like this that's going to get driven and isn't 100% perfect, the car overall is that, 8 out of 10 in my opinion. But these windows are going to do the job just fine. Now, one thing, of course, because the rest of the car is tinted up, and please excuse how dirty everything is, just sort of dust and everything else once I pulled off the plastic, and because I had just restored all the trim and painted everything up and redid the window frames, the door handles, all of this stuff has all been redone. And if you guys are interested in seeing some trim restoration, be sure to check out some of my other videos because I go through all of that. You'll see I also put the antenna delete plate on there. So in reality, I just got to get these quarter windows in. Once quarter glass is mounted and bolted back in, then I can put these trim pieces back on here. So Because the car is tinted, the new quarter glass is not. So of course, we really want to make sure that those are tinted, preferably before they get installed in the car, because it'll make our lives easier. Got this from Amazon overnight, prime delivery. What's this? Black Magic 5% window tint. They are the rear quarter windows, so 5%, whatever. I'm not trying to see out of those windows by any means. So I think it was 10 bucks for this. It is 2 feet by 6.5 feet, so probably more than enough material to cover a number of these quarter windows. So we're gonna go over that real quick and get these tinted up. Then we'll get them installed. But let's go over a few things about these quarter windows so you guys can see what I was talking about when I said I had to prep them out before, you know, getting them perfect for install. I've already gone ahead and done this one, but if you watch my previous video, you'd see that I had mentioned that when this came out of the mold, that this line right here, these edges actually all the way around aren't 100% straight cut or smooth. So all I did was I took a razor blade and very carefully went around this edge, and actually you can see kind of a nick in here. Now you're not going to see that when it's installed, but it's very close to the edge. So there's just things like that and excess material that was left. So you just want to kind of trim everything off and get it nice and smooth. And again, just take your razor blade, take your time, just run it around the whole contour and get things straight. Make sure that you have it straight. You don't want to cut through the edge and cut your beautiful moldings that you just spent essentially $700 or $800 or whatever it is on. And then when you're done with that, some 400 grit sandpaper, and literally just sand the inside edge and just get it so it's just nice and straight and smooth, and everything should look pretty good once you go to install. The main thing is you want this surface here nice and flat all the way around this contour. So I'm gonna go ahead now, get this guy tinted up, which means need to clean this because I've just been touching it with my fingers, and we need to cut some tint. First and foremost, you want to figure out which side has the glue, which it is the outside. All right, so this back side's got the gluey side, which means we're going to tint from the back side. We want to put our tint on like so. So you guys can use a razor blade. The reason why I'm actually not, because I don't want to scratch the new glass. So there, we have a piece that should fit in there quite nice. You can actually get tint that is pre-cut now, and will make your life a million times easier. And a razor blade, a fresh razor blade, guys. And just go over all of the glass. Honestly, it's the best way to clean any debris off. Alright, I want to make sure there's no fingerprints, no grease. I'm actually just going to take some of our soapy water here and just smear it on, because tint application spray. In reality, is nothing but the tint solution is pretty much just soapy water anyways. Now I have a fancy applicator. If you guys don't have a fancy applicator, then you could use a credit card or something. So the heat gun helps just to, because there is some curvature that's natural in this glass, and because tint is pretty much a flat surface, it doesn't really like to have those contours. That's why tinting the rear windows is such a challenge. You almost have to heat the tint up first on the outside and get it to stretch and get the contour before you actually install it. The quarter windows here, you can get away without doing that. And the heat will just help kind of work out any potential air bubbles that are in there and get it looking good. One thing you guys can do if you don't want to mess up your tint is put a piece of the plastic that you ripped off the back, especially if you guys are using like a credit card or something. And that way you're scraping, this plastic film and not the tint directly. Just a little trick if you don't have a proper applicator with the protective rubber surface there. There we go. One tinted coupe quarter glass. Of course, I got my fingerprints all over it and everything. That'll all get cleaned up. It's 5%, so nice and dark. And looks like we don't have any air bubbles or anything crazy. So nice and clean. So I'm going to do the other one and then we can get to installing these guys. Alright guys, I'm not sure what happened. My GoPro kept overheating last night, so I left the battery out and hopefully everything will reset and this thing will run cool. But right now what I'm doing, I'm just taking some wax and grease remover and wiping down where all the butyl tape was. I apologize in advance if there's a little bit of background noise. The AC fans are spinning today because it's a hot one here in Texas. So trying to keep it down around 80 so that way at least I'm not sweating my balls off as I'm working in here. But anyways, the nice thing about this window kit is it comes with a roll of new butyl tape, window sealer, ribbon sealer, whatever you want to call it. And more importantly, it actually comes with new nuts. And the nuts actually have some sealant on the backside as well, which is nice because these holes are actually right in line in some of these locations with where the butyl tape is. So that'll make sure that everything stays sealed and that water doesn't creep in on you when you wash your car or it rains, because I've actually seen these be the root cause of leaks in a lot of Fox bodies. You'll actually find that little pocket down in the plastic after it rains or you wash your car will actually fill up with water due to faulty rear quarter window seals. So wipe that down with some wax grease remover everything is good. Gonna go ahead and apply some of the ribbon tape and then pretty much get our quarter window in. We can put the final window trim piece back on and this side of the car will be all good and done. Actually a little bit of a stain. This from where the seal met the car before, probably years of washing. Everything else, so I'm just gonna take some of this compound, just sort of like when I did the antenna delete. Just wanna clean up this edge. So it's nice and clean when the window gets installed. The butyl or the sealant is actually going to resist or push back because it's got a thickness and you almost want to squish it down. So when you put your hardware on, just kind of go around and tighten everything up, just kind of snug, and then keep going around in a couple rotations. Just because the glass is going to move and it's slowly going to squish things down until you can feel that everything feels relatively snug, then you're good to go. All right, so you can see this gap right here. So we want to make sure that we close that gap in. And if you look on the inside, you can actually see the outside of the car between the window and the sealant tape. So we are, like I said, going to slowly snug everything down and it'll pull the glass closer to the edge. You can see the gap there, so we want to make sure that we get everything sealed up nice and tight. It's not good. All out. See what can be done, if anything. All right, so here's the situation. Got our studs that should be in here. A couple of them are okay, but they were on their way to pulling out. You can see where it just kind of cracked around everything. So the name of the game now is going to be getting these studs back in place, and I guess I'm just going to use some epoxy or something that hopefully will keep them in there, and we're going to have to be extremely cautious when we go to torque this thing back down. And it's kind of unfortunate, like I wasn't putting that much pressure on the socket wrench, and they just slowly wanted to keep pulling. And you can see by how soft this rubber is. Now I'm very skeptical in general about the windows, but I'm going to keep going on this mission and try and get them to work. Alright guys, so you can see here I've gone around. This one actually still had the little caps for the studs, which is probably a good thing. Avoids you getting any epoxy or resin or whatever the material that you might be using is on your threads, because that would make it not so nice to screw on the nuts once everything is sealed up. I actually noticed that there was a few voids in some of these rubber mounting points, and those voids would definitely allow that pressure when you are tightening down the nut for that stud to want to kind of lift and pull outwards. So make sure you get all those voids filled, get a nice smooth surface, you know, get it right up to the stud. And this stuff takes a full 24 hours for it to cure to its optimum, I guess, solidness. So I'm going to be letting these sit until tomorrow, which is unfortunate because I wanted to get the car all wrapped up today, but that's fine. All right guys, so I'm just trying to put some good firm pressure. Just kind of distributing it around the glass so we can squish that butyl tape down and get a nice mated, sealed up surface. And at the same time, I want to try and get everything pushed down as much as possible so we're not trying to draw it as much through the studs, because we know that the studs are definitely weak. So the better I can get it pressed against the body and all that butyl tape pushed and squished down, then the less we're gonna have to worry about relying on drawing the window in with the studs. So it might have been a little bit of my problem the first time. I was relying too much on the studs, which I've never had a problem with the OE windows, and I've replaced countless amounts of these with original quarter windows, whether they're coupe or hatch. So you got to remember, when we're dealing with aftermarket, well, stuff is sometimes a little bit more fragile. So I think everything's looking pretty good there. Go ahead and put these on and see what happens. All right, so I'm pretty much going hand tight with them, just what I can do with the ratchet, not putting too much tension or force, being extra gentle. And so far so good. Everything is sealing up nice. I'm just gonna let it probably sit for a little bit. It is nice and warm in here today, so about the butyl tape being too cold. If I really wanted to, I could probably just run the heat gun, get it warmed up, and then that would really kind of allow it to stick. But I'm just gonna let it sit for 10 minutes or so, let it kind of get in its place, and then I'll do another little hand tight motion with the bolts, and then I'm gonna leave it, because I've looked around, the butyl tape, everything is sealed. I don't see outside anywhere or any gaps. So everything should be good to go, which means I can go ahead now and get this window trim on. All right guys, so when you're taking out your original coupe quarter windows, you obviously want to make sure you get all of the studs that are holding it in. So there's 3 along the front side here, and there's 3 along the back side, and actually there's 1 more down here. So you want to make sure, because there's actually some holes cut through the body metal on the inside, so you might actually find a nut hiding that you didn't think was there holding the window in. So one method that I use is I actually try and get right in here on this front side with, I'm actually using a panel popper tool, and if you're lucky, there's a seam here, and if you can get the panel popper in and just gently pry. Now, if they've ever been out in your car already, you don't know what other people use to stick them in there. I've actually seen them urethaned in, which was the case for the Dutch number 5 car, and it was an absolute nightmare. I thought I was gonna break the glass to get them out. And another thing that you can do is get a heat gun. That's in there. Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this one is urethaned in. The other thing that you can do is you can put a lot of pressure from the back side. I've actually sat on the back seat and put my shoe right on the glass, right in the center, and just kind of heave-hoed it. Again, you want to use kind of consistent pressure. Yeah, that is not moving. So try and give you guys some view here so you can see the sealant along the seam. And you just gotta want to try and get your knife in here. And actually I can see clear silicone up there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. So that's clear. So somebody has done some creative sealing, but again, let's get a knife. Try and keep it against the body of the car. Don't want to ruin the rubber or the housing of the quarter glass. And just run it down a couple times if you have to. Just be careful you don't slip. Cut yourself open in any spots. Not going to be liable if you hurt yourself. Hell, I'm not only responsible when I hurt myself, which these old Fox bodies seems to be a common occurrence. There we go. See if you can run it down along the bottom here some. Sorry guys, I know the light's not the greatest right now, but oh yeah, there we go. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm kind of running the panel popper right through. Trying to cut any of the other material. Oh, there we go. So once you can get things started, just kind of slowly pry. Don't go too aggressive. There we go. Whew. Oh yeah, look at that, guys. Lifted paint off. I think they used just whatever they could find to get that stuck in there. So needless to say, we're going to be doing a lot of cleanup right here. Get a razor blade. Here's our cleanup. Here's the mess on the floor of all the previous silicone, some paint that came off with it, and there was clear silicone, black silicone, all types of cones. So I've got most of all of that off as I can. I've wiped everything down with the wax and grease remover. I'm going to go ahead now and hit a little bit of the rubbing compound to try and get rid of some of the staining, and then we'll go ahead, put our butyl tape on, get the glass laid in there, and we will have our driver's side done with the new quarter window. Alright guys, so one thing that you can do after is just check your butyl. If you feel like you have a gap, you can always peel some more off and stick it in there, but as long as you feel like everything is firm, a little bit old silicone there, and you don't feel or see any gaps, then you've done your job. You could always pour some water on the top, let it leak down, and see if you have any leaks coming on the inside if you want to be extra sure about your work. But other than that, I think we're good to go here. All right, so there we have it. It was a long road to get here, but we've now gotten pretty much to the finish line. And our new coupe quarter glass are installed. The rest of the trim is put back on top of the door frames. And that concludes the trim restoration for the car, which means I am 99% done with the exterior, aside from, well, you know what? I'm 90% done. There is a need for a car wash in a very bad way, and I need some PDR. So there is a dent on this rear quarter panel right above the fuel door area. It's really hard to see, but it is there. And then there's a dent on this passenger side door, right around this area here. So I want to get PDR done there. Obviously get the car all cleaned up. And then I have something else I'm going to do. I got a headlight swap that's going to be in the works. Now, I don't know if it'll stay on the car, but it's something that I wanted to try out. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if it works. If it does, great. If it doesn't, well, I can always put these guys back on. Maybe polish out the headlights just a touch bit more. They have a slight tinge of yellow to them, but other than that, really happy with the way that everything has turned out. I honestly had no idea that changing out those quarter windows was going to be as involved as it was, especially with those studs. We didn't have any issues on the driver's side. Of course, I did reinforce those stud mounting points. So everything aside from that issue, and be it a lesson learned for you guys to just make sure that either A, you're hardly putting any torque down on them, and push the glass on as far as you can get it first, so that way you're not trying to draw the glass in through the studs. But lesson learned, we got the problem fixed, we got it sorted out, we got all of this old silicone and everything else cleaned up from a previous installation. So now that is taken care of, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys found this episode informative. Like I said, I really wasn't planning on going down this hole, and I know not all of you guys are changing your quarter windows out, but maybe some of you guys plan on doing it in the future. Maybe you guys have battled similar issues using aftermarket stuff, but we made it in the end, and persistence conquered. So really happy with that. So now the question is, do I pull that headliner out, since I have the rear plastics and a lot of the supporting pieces out? So I probably will, and get that addressed, which will pretty much finish off the interior. So there's always something. Right when I always feel like the car is almost done, I always find other stuff to do. And when this is all done, who knows? I haven't tackled the engine bay yet, so that might be another one for another episode. Anyways, as always, thank you again for all your support. For everybody who followed along to the end, we'll see you guys next time here on the Infamous Project.